for a lot of other people, who don't understand the situation and other kids and other
Yes.
families, it's not so, easy for them to look or easy for them to see. And that was a part that really bothered me when I was younger, especially the first year, just going out in public and having people stare like he was, not normal. Oh
Right.
my gosh. Right. It was just like there was and a lot of kids even throughout like elementary and middle school would just like make comments, you know what I mean? Like, dude, I don't there's some stuff like I could not believe that kids would say or do those things, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, wow, you would really hope that parents would teach their kids, ahead of time, like, hey, by the way, if you ever run into, da, 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 there are people out there who may not look
Right.
like you. Right, right, right. Because that is honestly, I know, and I know my dad struggles with it too. And I don't know if your dad struggles with like people staring and things like that, but I know it takes a toll on their mental health, even though they're like these, you know, soldiers who have this like alpha, I can take care of myself, nothing bothers me, you know what I mean?
Right.
Things like that really do, whether we think they do or not, they can get to them,
Yeah, and it's hard.
I don't know. I feel like when they try and attack military children's like mental health and when they try and come up to and try and figure out how to fix it, they all look at it like it's like one big same thing. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I feel like it's so important that we like when I was younger, when my dad was in the military, it was never really an idea to be like being seen. I feel like as a psych major that therapy is something that like everybody should do. You know what I mean? I don't
Mhm.
think that therapy is just something for like people who deal with mental illness. Of course, people who deal with mental illness will benefit from therapy, but like everybody undergoes trauma, you know what I mean?
Right.
So you don't necessarily have to experience maybe something as extreme as we did in order to experience like this military child trauma, you know? And
Right.
I feel like a lot of those kids go unnoticed with kids who maybe didn't have a parent get blown up or pass away. They still underwent the fear, you know,
Right. Any
of them
deployment.
not coming back or like
Exactly.
being on the phone with them and maybe hearing something scary that,
Right.
like different things like that. And I don't know, it makes me sad because I wish in all ways, all the time, I'm wishing like, I just wish mental health advocacy and like the betterment of people's brains and the mental health of everybody was just uplifted more often, because I feel like it would make such a difference.
And the thing too is to understand a military child, to understand a military spouse, to understand a service member, you
Right.
have to live the life.
Exactly.
And civilians from the outside most of the time come in and they're like, "Oh, we understand you. We understand you. We understand you. We understand what you go through." And it's like, "No, you don't."
Right.
Like, you have to live the life of a military child to actually understand the life of a
Right.
military child.
Right.
And if
Right.
you don't understand it, then to a point, it's like, don't try to help.
Right. Because
Like,
you're not going to be able to. Right.
exactly. And you end up causing more damage in the end.
Right.
And
Right.
then you're suffering because someone tried to
Right.
help and it didn't help.
Right, right. And that's also another big issue is like making sure that those therapists are based, and that's why I'm going into, what I'm going into. And I want to go into PTSD research therapy and everything like that because I've seen the effects
Yeah.
firsthand. You know what I mean? I know the effects that it has on somebody. And, even if I ended up going into, therapy for just military children, which I could see me doing that as well. Exactly like you were saying, I've been through that. So I can sit there and look at them and be like, look, I get it. I don't understand your exact situation, but
Right.
I understand what you're feeling for the most part. You know what I mean? And when you don't
Yes.
have somebody who has gone through that and they're just spitting, what they think that they know at you.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it can really be damaging. So yeah, that's a big issue, is making sure that the professionals in that field have like undergone that experience. I think it's very weird when like there are military therapists who have nothing to deal with, have never experienced, being in that situation. It's like, how could
Right.
um I don't know when this podcast is going to come out, but even with what's going on in the news right now,
Yes.
even though it's or a decade later, 10 years later, we're sitting here and a lot of us are very, very confused right now. And it's hard because nobody really knows what to say,
Yeah.
and the only thing that I can really even think of is like, focus on you. Focus on you, because the more you find out and the more you dig and the more you analyze what made you grow up into the person that you are today, you know what I mean? The more that it's just going to be easier to, flow throughout life and realize that it's okay, and that, it's, I don't know that it's gonna be okay, that it's gonna be okay, because that's all I've ever wanted for somebody to tell me, was that it was gonna be okay, and it does eventually get okay. I said eventually,
It
but
does become okay. Like, we go through these struggles and, at the point, like, being 9 years old and my mom or my dad already being deployed, my mom then, moving to Texas more or less without us for a month to be with my dad. It's like, is everything actually going to be okay? Is everything going to work out? And then it's like, okay, well, looking back
right,
on it, everything did work out. Like,
right. Things will
here we're
eventually,
coming on 10 years, but everything has so far worked out.
right, right. And if things don't, then you just got to push through them, and they
Yeah.
will be okay. But yeah, it can get hard. It can definitely get hard, especially with the times now. But
Yeah.
yeah, we have
It is.
such a good support system too. And just
Yes.
make sure you have a support system. Like, do not go alone. Do not like keep everything inside and like isolate yourself emotionally, because that's like the worst thing that you can do. Nobody likes to feel alone. And you aren't
Yeah.
alone.
Exactly. And that's what I've been saying, especially with, these past 2 weeks, like a lot of my Instagram posts on like the podcast or on even my Instagram and my Facebook and stuff. It's like, don't be alone. Like you cannot, go through this on your own. Like everyone who has relation to the military is struggling. Like
Right.
that's just that. That's how it is. That's civilians are struggling and like, once the whole world is struggling like this, then something's wrong.
Wrong. Right.
And
Right.
so it's like don't be alone,
Right.
especially, people like us who have been through so much.
Right.
It's like don't. Like you're going to go down a spiral and you cannot do
No.
that.
Right. Right. Like you can't, because the last 2 weeks, what's been going through my head is like, and I'm sure this is the exact same thought that you've had, is like, did this thing happen to my family for no reason?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. But in reality, it's like, no, there's purpose through all
There
of
is
it. You know what
purpose.
I
There is
mean?
a reason. And like, we have had the news on 24/7 and it,
Exactly.
they kept repeating the same thing. Like every service member who was lost in action, everyone, who has sacrificed, even a little bit, like their service was not in vain. Like this has
Right.
a purpose. This was,
Right.
we gave freedom for 20
Right.
years to these
Right.
people. And
Right.
20 years is a lot.
20 years is a very long time. And it's like, even if it's not now, like you said, like there are things, they did their part and they did all that they could.
Yeah.
But it's not their fault, and it's not our fault, and it's just, oh boy.
We just have to like deal with it and like
Right, right.
it's hard knowing there's nothing you can do. It's
Right.
hard knowing
Right.
that, and hard knowing you're sitting here and you're like, well, what do I do? Like, what
Right.
can I do? And it's like, you
Check
can't
up
do
on your
anything.
well, you could check up on your service members, and just
Yeah.
like be there for them. I had to, I'm away from my dad right now. Are you away from your
No, I live at home.
you live at home? Okay, yeah. So I'm like 2 hours from, I'm not that far, but all I could think of like was my dad, throughout the last week. I'm like, dude, I can't imagine what he's feeling. It's like I have to send him a text.
Yeah.
And when I did, he was like, I felt so much better when you like, just reach out to me, you know what I mean? They
Yeah.
just want somebody to be there for them, just like anybody wants somebody to be there for
Yeah.
themselves.
And I think it's the same way with, of course the veterans are, suffering the most, but then it's like you got to trickle down the line. Like I've been sending messages to my friends, being like, how are
Yeah.
you? Like, are you okay? Like, um, and checking up on everyone, like making sure everyone's okay, because this isn't something to struggle out alone, and
Right.
this is something that we're all suffering with, and you can't do that alone.
No, no. Because it's too big. It's
It
too big
is.
to do on your own. Definitely
Yes.
big. But
Yes.
support systems.
Exactly.
Always have that support system and support others as well,
Yeah.
as much as you can always.
Yes.